AskReddit by Fashion House. What do you think is scarier, the idea that we are alone in the universe or the idea that we aren't? Why? Tell me OP, have you read the 3-Body Problem series? I haven't read this, but the description of the dark forest theory sounds a lot like the plot of an earlier book called A Killing Star. The idea being that any race capable of accelerating something to an appreciable percent of light speed is then also able to destroy any planet with almost not warning. Just lob something with enough mass at a planet at a 5% the speed of light and the planet will be devastated with little recourse. So, if you detect another intelligent life form, and you have this capability, you should assume they do too and destroy them first, since you can't be sure they aren't thinking the same thing. Which leads to a galaxy of species laying low for fear of getting whacked. I think about the ruins of ancient civilizations on other planets and how absolutely fascinating it would be to explore them. Imagine visiting a planet and the civilization was on par with our ancient Greeks or something similar. Neither is scary, because if we're alone, then we have nothing to worry about. If we're not, then the sheer vastness of space is a pretty good indicator that we're not likely to ever make contact with another intelligent species. I find it more depressing knowing that there are so many galaxies and planets out there, that there must be billions of strange and exotic places that we'll never see or explore. We're pretty much confined to our own solar system unless we develop a technology to skip across time and space, which is scary to imagine. True. How amazing would it be to planet hop? Forget Europe, I'm vacationing in another galaxy. That we are alone. Given how massive the universe is in space and time, the idea that Earth is the only place where any life form exists is unsettling. Everyone seems to be assuming that other life means humanoid or intelligent. To me it just means any life form. Carbon-based or made of elements unknown to our galaxy. There has to be something else. Cavemen had no idea about whales. Whales had no idea about cavemen. Both existed, but neither believed the other existed because their minds couldn't comprehend it. There are more stars in the universe than there are all of the grains of sand on Earth. Many of those stars have multiple planets orbiting them. There is life. Distance and the Great Filter are far more terrifying to me. The idea that we're alone. Because it would imply that our existence is winning the astronomical lottery and this is all we're trying to do with it. Edit, thanks for the silver and all the love. Also edit, no, this isn't negativity. While I do appreciate the inventions and discoveries of the last few centuries, it doesn't mean we're 100% fine to be the way we are and label all of the above as mankind's achievements. We weren't the ones who put in the hours, blood, sweat and tears, suffered sleepless nights and had days when we couldn't travel leisurely and had to grind from before sunrise to after sunset, when we couldn't spend a lot of time with family and friends. Sitting on the great works of mankind's greatest minds in history and claiming it as part of our own success just because we are also human beings does not justify it's okay for most of us to be slack. Let's all carry our own weight and make the most out of our time on this planet. They've had a couple billion years, sir, and the best they could come up with was making memes about a gorilla who was shot. The idea that we are alone. It gives me a feeling of loneliness and that there is not as much out there to look for. Existence would not be as interesting. Next best thing is to shoot bacteria into space and hope it hits something, then we will have created aliens. Edit, oh crap, this blew up. The idea that we aren't, that could be one of the worst ideas possible. Have you ever heard about the Great Filter Theory? https://yahoo.be/ujtogpj0 closed bracket comma, or maybe a super civilization that monitors other planets with lives and destroy them once they become too much of a threat to them. If you haven't already, I suggest you read the 3-Body Problem series. The idea we aren't. Basically, any time two entities come into contact there is some kind of power struggle, and the loser is either subjugated or eliminated. The only chance for peace is a coincidental situation where both parties are at the same power, roughly speaking, to where the struggle is known to be too damaging to all parties such that it should be avoided. Mathematically there should be life. I think it would be far more frightening that we are alone. It would indicate there was something very weird going on. That we aren't. If we're alone then we are the best and worst of the universe. I don't want to run into a species worse than us. Valid point. I think the scariest thing is that if an asteroid hit Earth right now and destroyed everything, nothing that we know of will recognize any record of anything that ever happened on Earth. There will be nothing to account for the loss of Earth. So if there's nothing out there to do that, then it's like Earth never existed at all. Scary. Edit. Golden record. Tree falls in woods. Entropy. Got it. Actually we sent out proof of our existence on probes. https://en.m.wiki.org/wiki/pioneer_plot. We sent into outer space in the hopes alien life might find them. They have some cool stuff like a star map to Earth and recordings of various humans. That we are alone. The thought that Shrek exists somewhere and would kindly accept us in his swamp in the time of major catastrophe gives me a good night's sleep. Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Alone. It's theoretically impossible for us to be alone, but if we're the first last thinking life forms in the universe, that's a depressing thought. 'Cause that means someday, the last human being will die out and that will be the end of all progress. Sure, life will go on, but would another species step up and do better than us? Can they? Will they? I guess the not knowing is the worst part of it. Theoretically extremely unlikely. Not impossible. The idea that it matters. The idea that regardless of either possibility, there is no saving us from ourselves. True. That we are alone for sure. Now not saying that is scary, but it's scarier than knowing there are aliens, because if there's one then suddenly the odds of more goes up, and given the scale, the possibilities are endless. We could come across aliens that have cures for all diseases and answers to all our questions about the universe, all given to us in the space of a couple days, saving us centuries of scientific research and advancement. This is equally as likely as a predatory alien species that tries to eat us, but generally, when a civilization advances certainly to the level of space travel, the civilization become more and more peaceful. Mathematically we shouldn't be alone. There are too many stars in too many galaxies across a seemingly infinite universe that has already existed for billions of years. So, if we are alone there has to be a reason for it. And that reason must be terrifying. A wave that wipes out a city is terrifying. A fire that kills everything in a forest is terrifying. We don't have a word to describe the unfathomable horror of confronting the reason why life doesn't exist in the universe. Even more worrying, if this force has wiped out all life in the universe, for what reason has it left us alone? I hope there is a God or something greater than us. I'm not religious, but it's a comfort to hope for. I don't think either of those outcomes is scary. Reality is what it is. Getting upset over it isn't going to change anything. That's no more scary than the fact that I can't flap my arms and fly to the moon. I think the scarier one is that we aren't. Mostly from the scientific viewpoint I once learned about. There was this natural filter or something, which was a nearly impossible obstacle to overcome for life. Now, the goal of all life is to grow and evolve, so the natural goal of humanity is to spread in the whole universe. That's where this filter comes in. There were 4 main stages that can be the filter in theory: developing life, developing conscience, developing intelligence, and factor X. What that means is, the less life we find in space, the more likely it is we've already overcome the biggest obstacle and we can continue to grow. If we find, let's say, many other civilizations, that will mean the obstacle is ahead of us. The unknown factor X theory is that it's probably us destroying ourselves eventually. So, Personally, I hope we can continue with humanity's goal and make our history actually mean something to the universe by the time it ends. The idea that we are alone because that would mean no other hospitable planets exist in the universe, and when the Earth finally blows up or whatever, then that is the end of life in the universe. I believe that yes, mathematically, there should be other life, but the part that I think a lot of people overlook is the fact that the possibility that this other life form exists at the same exact point in time as us is very low. The universe has existed for 13.8 billion years, and life on Earth has only existed for the last 3.5 billion years, which is a lot of time, but humanity has only existed for the last 200,000 years, 0.00002 billion years. Then you also have to consider the fact that even if we do exist at the same as this other life form, the possibility that they would have some form of communication that we can interpret or even detect, or the possibility that we could even find it within the vast universe, is astronomically low. So really, I believe that there definitely has been, or will be, extraterrestrial life somewhere in the universe, but it doesn't seem possible that we. Just like it says in the Fermi paradox, both are equally as terrifying. If we're alone, then it means that life was a mistake and we're just a small error in the cosmos, but if they are real, then depending on their level of complexity, we can't know if the great filter is ahead of us or behind us. If it's behind us, then we don't have much if anything at all to worry about, but if it's ahead, there may be an extinction event coming. Alone because some astronomical event must have destroyed that civilization. It is only some time until it eventually happens to us. You're assuming there was another civilization to begin with.